This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. With last week's video, we received two main topics of conversation in the comments. One, the outboard motor, and the second, the shower. First, we're going to talk about the outboard motor, and we'll talk about the shower later in this video. Thank you so much for all your comments, questions, and suggestions about the outboard motor. We really appreciate the input.
We want to help you in case you would like to assist us in the future with trying to find how we're going to deal with the electric outboard or gas, or maybe something else. We want to tell you what our goals, priorities are for our tender and outboard. And we have 4 items. And I'm going to go over the first one really quickly. It'll we've talked about some of this way in the past, but in case you haven't seen those videos, I'm going to go over it briefly again right now. Number 1 is that we want an easily swappable outboard. So we can go between our large outboard and our small outboard. And the reason for this is that we purchased an Inmar 365R AL tender dinghy. And I'm calling it a tender dinghy. We're going to use those 2 terms to designate 2 separate things. When I call it a tender, it's when we want to go long distances, so we need to go fast because it would take forever if it's a long distance and we were going very, very slow. And the other configuration is as our dinghy, and that is going to go very slow, but it has some other advantages. If we're going to go into a shore that has a little bit of surf, we don't want to take a extremely heavy tender in there, because with the tender weighing 200 pounds and the outboard weighing 120 or 30, and if we have an electric, you're adding a couple hundred pounds of batteries, you can have tender over 500 pounds. And dragging that up a beach or back down into the water makes it more difficult when it's that heavy. And you just cannot flip over a gas outboard or really an electric outboard that has lithium batteries on board and stuff. If a surf flipped us over, it would be catastrophic. And so we want to be able to configure to a lighter dinghy to do that. And if we take our e-propulsion Spirit 1.0 and put it on, that thing only weighs, with a battery in it, only weighs about 40 pounds. So the boat's a little under 200, so call it about 230 pounds total with battery, motor, and dinghy. If that flips over, we could still flip that back over. We can cart it up the beach. And the Spirit 1.0 is completely waterproof. It can be submerged, so can the battery. So even if flipped over, it wouldn't hurt it at all. So that gives us a configuration that allows us to go to the beach when there's surf like that. But most of the time, we're going to want a faster dinghy, because if we have to go a couple miles or something to a dive site or something else, we want to be able to go fast. And if we're carrying a lot of people and a lot of gear, we're going to need that too. So we want to be able to swap those motors. That has to be quick and easy, meaning you won't want to do it if it's difficult. So we have to make it fairly simple to swap the 2. And that was point number 1. I'll let her handle point number 2.
So for number 2, we want a minimum of 25 horsepower and prefer a max 30 horsepower. Our tender has a max 30 horsepower, and we want to be able to run that at peak.
Right, and again, that has to do with, I mentioned, if we have a lot of people in dive gear and stuff, we're gonna need that extra horsepower. For the third sort of requirement for our tender, if we're going with an electric motor, we do not want to exceed 48 volts DC, because that's considered the highest voltage that's still safe for humans. Anything higher than that can be dangerous to humans, and we don't want to be out in our tender taking saltwater spray over the boat, and if we happen to get caught in some choppy conditions, which we will, and get soaked, the boat's soaked, the motor's soaked, the batteries are soaked, everything is soaked, and it's at a voltage dangerous to humans, and we don't really want to risk that. Even if the risk is small, it's still too much of a risk for us. So 48 volts is our maximum voltage.
And number 4, from the financial budget planner here, we want a price no higher than $10,000, and that includes batteries. And we'd prefer something less than that because our budget is getting stretched pretty thin.
Sure is. And that makes it really hard because there's just such a high price, especially when you add the batteries in there. So now we're going to look at a few of the actual questions that people posted, and I'm going to give individual answers to do with these 4 points we had: swappable minimum horsepower, voltage not to exceed 48, and price range. So we'll look at each of the suggestions here and explain why that doesn't work for us.
And our first comment and question is it possible to get a 96 volt, 30 horsepower electric outboard, have your 48 volt in series but connected at the motor itself, so the high voltage risk is minimized to a very specific location on the motor itself rather than the entire dinghy?
Okay, so could we waterproof it to the point where it was safe? Yes, there are ways that we could do that. Here's what our 2 problems that we have with that are. We want this whole system to be easily swappable out. And if it's waterproofed to the point where I would have to open up things and to disconnect stuff and things, it just becomes too difficult to swap that out. And so that's a problem. It just does exceed our maximum voltage, and no matter how much care I take, it's still a dangerous voltage, and I just don't like dealing with that.
Our second comment is Torqeedo has a 25 horsepower 48 volt, but wow, they are pricey compared to an IC outboard.
Yeah, internal combustion motors are just cheaper, and especially when you add the batteries in. And so the Torqeedo has got a couple of things it doesn't quite match up. It's a 12 kilowatt motor, and I want to say that this seems to be common across the board on all different manufacturers of these electric motors. Whenever they list the horsepower of the motor, they always list it higher than it really is. So if you look at things like the Torqeedo, it's the model is the 12, and that's to do with its kilowatts. It's a 12 kilowatt motor, and that's actually equivalent to 16 horsepower. So it doesn't really meet our 25 to 30 horsepower requirement. And then there's the price. They require 2 batteries to be hooked up in order to get the 12 kilowatt output. If you only put 1 battery, you get 6 kilowatts. And so if you add those batteries, it runs $22,000 to purchase that. So that's way beyond what we want to spend, more than twice as much.
Our next comment question is, how about a Golden motor attached to a jet propulsion system? 15 kilowatt, 48 volt, as I believe. It would be a direct drive system, doesn't occupy much space. It'd be a good project.
Sure would be. You know, we did consider jets, but this misses on 2 goals for us. First of all, that Golden motor is a 10.5 kilowatt motor. That's equivalent to 14 horsepower. So it's way under our desired 30 horsepower. And then, of course, attaching a jet propulsion system to the boat is sort of a permanent thing, and you can't swap that out of the boat easily. That's why we didn't go with the zero jet motor system, because it's permanently in the boat, and we can't swap to our tiny little e-propulsion motor to go to the boat shore and such.
Next one is, have you looked at Mercury Marine? The Avator 110E is a 48 VDC electric outboard.
Well, the issue with that one is simply horsepower. It's an 11 kilowatt motor, and that's about maybe 15 horsepower. So that's about half of what we need, so that just doesn't work. Now, another viewer did suggest that we just go with 2 48 volt outboards. That way, we keep under our within our maximum voltage. Yet we double the horsepower by having two outboards in parallel, and that is absolutely possible to do. And that would solve our issue of the high voltage and get us the horsepower we need. So it solves two of the issues. The problems are the other two things, the easily swappable, because once you put those together, you have to link them. Now when I want to take them off, I have to undo the linkage. I have to remove two separate outboards. And then there's the price. Each of those motors is over $5,000 at the cheapest ones I can find at a high enough horsepower. And then you got the batteries on top of that. So you get up $15,000 to $20,000 to set that up, and it's hard to swap.
Our next viewer comments, buy a 20 horsepower two-stroke Yamaha and quit worrying about flammability. Cruisers all over with much more experience than you and I have millions of miles with no problems.
I agree with most of his statements except for the last two words. The last two words are no problems. That's not true. It's a simple search on looking at boats that caught on fire from gas, and there are numerous that come up that gas has caused a fire or the whole boat to be lost. So is it rare? Yes, it's extremely rare. And there are thousands of boats out there using gas motors and not having their boat burn. So I'm not saying it's a high risk, but you can't say that there's no risk. There certainly is a risk. And so I'd like to cut that risk down to even smaller by storing the fuel on the stern like I showed in the last video, rather than a tank inside the main boat where we can have a possible collection of fumes and a spark and explosion and those kinds of things. So all I'm doing is lessening the chance, and even though that chance is still small.
Our next suggestion is that Parson makes a 6 kilowatt, 10 horsepower, 48 volt remote outboard.
It's 6 kilowatts. It's just way underpowered for us, so that one just won't work. And then the next one said, how about 2 electric outboards? But we already handled that.
Okay. Next viewer suggests I'd consider propane for the outboard if you can. But given the time frame of when you'll actually be in need of an outboard, it might be worth simply waiting till you're 3 to 4 months away from needing that outboard, and then if you're forced into gas or propane for it, making that purchase then.
Absolutely correct. Yeah. All we're doing right now is looking at possibilities of maybe we'll go with the gas. If we did, how would we store the gas? We want to wait, because what if ZeroJet's outboard does become available? Or what if some other company makes an outboard suddenly that is available? What if somebody makes a smaller diesel outboard? Somebody suggested that I go with a Yanmar. They make a diesel smaller outboard. The problem is that Yanmar's diesel outboard is not made anymore. Many years ago, actually, they stopped making it. And it was a dirty diesel, meaning it put out a lot of pollution and such. Part of the reason they stopped making it, I'm sure. Now you can still buy them used, but I don't really want a used, dirty diesel. But if somebody makes a clean diesel in the 30 horsepower range that isn't too expensive, well, I'll certainly consider that. But we have to wait, because you're right, we're not going to use this until the boat's done, and 3 to 4 months before it's completed is plenty good to start finding getting the choice made, and we can still put those gas tanks on the back of the boat at that point, or any of those kinds of things. So yes, good suggestion, and yes, that's what we're doing.
And another user suggested the new Mytech MO30. So at first look, this seemed to be perfect. It's a true 30 horsepower electric outboard running at 48 VDC. It's a bit heavy, but we could work with that. The issue for us is price. This little guy is priced at over $21,000 without batteries. With batteries, you get close to $30,000, and that's really outside our budget. If ZeroJet ever releases their outboard, it would have cost us $11,000 with the batteries included, almost a third of the price, though still pricey compared to a gas at about $4,000.
Right. So if ZeroJet wants to make their outboard, and we'll buy it. If not, at this point, we would, if nothing changes, we would probably go with the Tohatsu 30 horsepower. And that's where we stand. I hope that answers the questions. And keep making suggestions.
Absolutely.
You know, I knew some of this, but not all of it. There were a couple suggestions of ones I hadn't heard of. I went and researched them, and they didn't quite work out because of our 4 desired things. But I at least was able to find out that there are these existing that I hadn't found yet. The MyTech was an example of that, but a couple others as well. And it's a changing target right now. There's lots of electric propulsion being worked on. At the big boat show, I think it was in Germany this year, it was dominated by so many different electric motors and hybrid systems and that stuff. It's really something in development right now. And so we don't know what's going to happen in the next 8 months or so. So we'll wait and we'll find out. But eventually we got to buy a dinghy. Well, we have the dinghy. Eventually we have to buy an outboard for our dinghy. Now we already have the e-propulsion Spirit, so we're good to go on that one. But we need the bigger, faster motor. All right, well, that's it for the discussion on our outboard and tender. Let's show you what we got accomplished on building SV Lynx this week, and then we'll take some more questions at the end about the shower situation. Well, let's get going. Monday morning, and Brian and I are working on the forebeam, and what we're trying to add right now is something they call the pyramid, which is what supports the forestay coming down from the mast. And we have to make a form for carbon fiber, and that's what we've marked out on here. They're very strangely shaped. We've created we actually have a piece of the forebeam here, and we've created a template that is the shape that fits on here of the pyramid. But it has to be made out of many, many pieces because it's sloped down and such. So we're going to cut this out of marine ply, and then we'll start figuring out how to create the pyramid portion. So this is how this fits on here, like that, and it tilts back just slightly beyond the end for where the pin goes on here, so that is all correct. Okay, so we've got 6 of these to go on to our forebeam. Now we need 4 more, but these don't have to be full size, because since we have to take this out, we need to stair step this and sand them down. Well, we ran into a measurement problem with our forebeam area. This here is the width of the support for the Seagull Striker. So that has to go between these two. And in the plans, that's a 50 millimeter thickness, which is what this is. And so that leaves 50 millimeters between these boards. But the piece of hardware from the Forestay that comes down is only 17 millimeters wide. And the plans show that with this gap at only just barely more than 17 millimeters. So which is it? Is it the thickness of this Seagull Striker plates, or is it the thickness of the piece of hardware? Because the plans are not in agreement. And if we went with this thickness, 50 millimeters, this would be sloppy in here, and we'd have to do something about that. So I'm not sure what the intention is, since the plans are not in agreement. So I can't work on this further, and I'm going to have to
go through the painful process of trying to get information out of Schoening right now. So far, they're taking over a month to answer a question because of their liquidation problems. And that's just not good enough. But hopefully Robert Quinn will answer my question quickly, within a day or two at least. So I'll try him and see what I can get. So we're getting started on sanding. After we did some fairing, we're now sanding the cockpit ceiling. And that's because we decided that in between working on the hulls and the down in there for the heads and eventually the cabins, we're going to interspace some time and get the cockpit and salon ready to be painted. So today we're going to spend the remainder of today starting by sanding some, and then we're going to do some fairing as well. Well, it's not that we haven't done fairing before this, but today does mark an important day because we're really starting the full fairing of the boat today. And there's still things we have to build, but not very much. And so we're going to interspace some fairing in the finishing of the build. That would be the beds area, a little bit of cabinetry inside the heads, and most of the rest of it, anything else would be out at the bow. So there isn't a lot of building left to go. So we need to fair and sand and paint this boat. So we're going to get started. And now we've done some fairing already. For example, we faired this portion in this initial coat, and then over here we haven't done any. But I'm going to go with the second coat over here. We've sanded this already and cleaned it. And this will start filling in any lows that were left from the first time. Okay, so that takes care of the second fairing on this one. So now we're going to move on to the first fairing over here. Okay, so first layer on, ready to be sanded up when it's set. We'll do another layer on this one after that. And now we're going to shift gears. We're going to do this helm area, the stairs, the seat, the base of the helm seat here, the edges of this whole thing, and start fairing this whole area. And we should get all of that done today as far as the putting down fairing compound. And then we'll see. Probably the next work day we'll work on the table area over behind the camera right here, and that will, and the back wall, bulkhead number 6. We'll get it done up as well. So starting to get a lot of the fairing here done. I've still got to do the whole side of this down here, but it's enough of stuff above my head for today. So next work day we'll do this to start, and then maybe the bench over there. So let's get over this. Getting there. On to the reclining seat area here. Thus begins our fairing of the boat. We've got that lower helm portion now faired fairly well. We'll sand it up, see how it looks, do a little touch-ups here and there, and just be ready for high build epoxy paint. And now for something completely different. We're working on our diesel engine because we need to get the clutch and the Sigma drive and the brake rotor all on here into this bracket so that we can figure out the length of the drive shaft that we need to purchase still. We have to have this all assembled before we'll be able to get that length. And there's been a lot of stuff keeping us from getting that done. We've had to have a lot of work done on this clutch. But we just got it back from the machine shop, and I'm hopeful that it might work at this point. So we're going to give it a try. You'll notice all these different holes here. That's because we had to, these are the ones that came drilled from the factory, and they were wrong. So we had to have new holes drilled in for the nanny system to work with. Same thing on this other gear over here. I had to have new holes put in. Then we'd have this extracted and get these bolts put onto it. Again, re-drilled into 4 new spots, but we also had to have this pulled out of it and put back in again with these bolts already on here, because there was no way to get these bolts in here otherwise. Just move that screwdriver. Okay, don't want to drop this on my fingers. So now we're trying to put the Brunton's Sigma drive on, which is this unit here. And this takes out vibration from your shaft to your engine, and also allows about 3 degrees of movement. They have all kinds of different stud configurations. This is the one that fits our clutch. So we had just tested it. Our problem is not that. The studs are perfect. But when we put the studs on here, the rotor clears this side, but nowhere near clearing that bracket right there. Fortunately, it only has to go back about 3 millimeters or an eighth of an inch back. So we're just going to grind some metal back, and then this will set back into there. The reason that doesn't necessarily fit is, remember, this is made by Combi and this is made by Brunton's, and they don't know about each other at all. Okay. This morning we're starting with a physically difficult job. This thing weighs as much as a small motorcycle. It's heavy. And we've got to get this onto the nanny. Now, originally I intended to use an engine hoist and bring it up and try to put this on, but we don't have an engine hoist here. So Brian and I are going to try to do this without an engine hoist. It's going to be tough. We'll see if we can do it. Worst case scenario, if we can't manage this, we'll go get an engine hoist, bring it in here, hoist the engine in the air and do it all and put it back down again. I don't want to have to do that. So we're going to give it a muscle try right now. So wish us luck. Ready? Yep. What did I say about not doing curls? Uh-oh, it's rolling.
Yes, it is.
Oh, God.
I can hold it if you want to get in. Okay, we didn't drop it. That's a number one. Okay. So,
Ready?
yep. At least there's two of us on this end now.
Oh.
Okay, that's not bad. So far, so good.
Now we just have a lot of aligning to do. We got to get 4 bolts to line up to the transmission and also get it onto 4 motor mounts. I didn't know how these are going to fit, truthfully. But you see, that's almost against it right now, where it goes. And this is 1.5 inches or more short of the bolt. We have a problem. The problem is that this bracket, which has these holes right here and here that go onto the motor mounts, and they fit onto the motor mounts precisely. We have the motor mounts in the right place. But the problem is that by the time that the Combi clutch mounts to the transmission, this hole is about this much short, where my thumb is to the center of that hole. So we can't even re-drill it because it's beyond the end of this arm on both sides. So now we're going to have to figure out how to extend this bracket out so that we can add a new hole here on both sides again. Brian's working on sanding the fairing area we did underneath the helm and the stairs around the helm. Okay, it's Saturday, and we've been prepping this morning for a big glass job, because although we glued in all these walls on both sides of the boat, we have not tabbed them top, bottom, and seams. And so Brian and I are going to tackle the port side and tab hopefully the whole thing right now. And so there's these edges here, along the top, and then all the interior portions here down the hallway. Lots of that. Now we moved Brian over close because we're doing so much mixing that I got him a nice shade right here, and he's got all the pieces cut. So we're gonna get started, and we're gonna do one bathroom at a time. So this is the stern cabin near where the electric motor will be under the bed over here. And we'll see how far we get on this one. We'll mix up enough thicken to do all the seams right now, and then he'll start mixing thin, and we'll put tab on all of it. And then if we're still feeling good, we'll move on down to the forward cabin on this port side, do the same thing. All right, tight quarters. Sorry about the camera angles, but only so much space even though we expanded the size of these heads. Now my friend Kevin Moxie over in Japan building the Dix 48 or 480, he suggested way back at the beginning that I buy a resin mixing machine. To which I say, I already have one. His name is Brian. So save some money there. Now Kevin is building his boat by himself, so he doesn't have Brian. So I understand. All right, we're getting down towards the tail end. We've got this whole side done, and we've got this whole side done, and all we have left is to wet out this part and along the top up there. Whew, done. And not a moment too soon, because again, I'm tired. This is a long job doing all of these and all of these over here and all of these over here. So we're going to call that a day. It's the end of Saturday, and we've got another big job done here. This stuff's all tabbed in, so it will be solid, no squeaks, and no cracking loose from the glue. Be good to go. And Monday we'll probably tackle the starboard side and do this whole job over again.
So that's what we got done on construction of SV Lynx this week. So now let's tackle our second topic for this video, the shower situation. We have gotten so many comments about the changing showers. Here are a few of them that I'm going to read and we'll talk about it. So first comment, my preference would have been one shower and one toilet in each hull. One hull private for the owners, other shared facilities for occasional crew. I believe you will regret that decision to have one shower in the future when the practicalities become apparent. And again, I think you're going to regret having only one shower. Now, for the three of you who are living permanently on the boat, as opposed to those coming and going for a week at a time, getting dressed in that wet shower will really start to annoy you. And finally, maybe the double head side could be plumbed for 2 potential future showers.
Okay, so I think this is my fault because I probably wasn't clear enough in the last video. I think I split it into two portions of the video, and that was confusing. We don't have one shower. We have 4 showers. And all we're really doing is making one large common area shower that we're going to use primarily because it's just larger and it'll be nicer for us to go in there and use that shower. But there are 2 other indoor showers. That the large shower is on the starboard side. On the port side, which is the owner's side, that means that Brian's cabin and the Admiral and my cabin are both over on that side of the hull. There we have ensuite heads. They have a sink and a toilet in them, but they're going to be wet heads. And if you're not familiar with wet heads, it just means that they're also a shower inside the same chamber there. So there's a shower head. And we can use those as showers as we feel like. And they're ensuite, so we can walk right out into the cabin to get dressed if we want. The only thing is that it's a wet head, so your toilet's going to get wet. That's basically what's going to happen. That's not that big a deal. You can wipe it off, but it's just a little extra work. But I think that we'll primarily use the large dedicated shower and only use those if we have some reason to, like there's bad weather out and we want to sit down on the toilet while we use the handheld shower, which it can either be put into a holder to stand as a stand-up shower or taken off and used as a handheld. So again, we have those 3 showers. And I said we had 4 showers. That's because there's a 4th shower on the sugar scoop. It's hot and cold running water and a permanent shower head out there that you can take a shower back on the sugar scoop if you want. Obviously, that's outdoors, so in cold weather areas, you're not going to want to use it. And in warm weather areas, you're going to probably have to be clothed, a bathing suit or something on. But it's there, and it's particularly good if you're just coming out of salt water and you just want to rinse off and get that off of you. Or we want to use it to wash off dive gear and things like that. That's all excellent for that shower out there on the sugar scoop. But again, we have 3 showers. So the comments about we're going to get annoyed and tired of having only 1 shower, well, we have 3. And as far as getting dressed in there, I want to handle that one too. Even if you're using the large common shower over there, you don't have to get dressed in it. There's a dry closet in there that you can hang a robe. All you have to do to go out in the common area is put your robe on and walk back to your cabin. Not that big a deal. So we're not concerned with our 3 interior and 1 exterior shower layout. It should all be fine. So we do appreciate you guys all commenting though. It's really great to read the different comments and the opinions, and we weigh them and consider them, and they're very useful to us. So keep commenting. We do appreciate it.
And then we have one other thing we wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, Evening Star. And if you don't know what Evening Star is another Solitaire 1520. Remember that I basically designed this boat and worked with Schoenig on the engineering side of it. And one of the people out there has purchased the same boat I designed, and they built it. Now, they started after us and they finished before us. The reason for that is really simple. They had a professional company with a lot of employees, about maybe 15 or so, working on it in a interior place with cranes and scaffoldings and all kinds of things we don't have. So they were much faster than us. And it's in the water already. And it was just at a Australian boat show where it was the talk of the boat show. Seriously, it was the big news of the boat show because they were claiming it's the nicest home built or one-off, not home built, one-off catamaran that they'd ever seen. So it's a beauty. I know the owners. We've conversed all the way through their build of the boat. We've talked, and hope to meet up with him in Australia one of these days, and on our 2 Solitaire 1520s. You can go watch the videos. Just look for that Australian Boat Show, and again, the name of the boat is Evening Star. If you want to go take a look. All right. Well, I think we're at the end of the video.
Yes. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate you and your time, and keep those comments and questions coming. Thank you also to our patrons listed here. We couldn't do this project without you guys, and we really appreciate you. And as always, please like, subscribe, share, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
Right. And we got lots of fun stuff coming next week, so we'll see you then.
Bye.